Hi everyone, it's Cake Talk, not Cake Talk, episode 13. Welcome back, and for those of you who are new to this, welcome, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's get started. There's so many questions on Instagram. A lot of them are the same, so let's get started. Okay, this is from EG.490. How long have you been baking? Love your channel. Thank you. I have been baking since I was about 10, so about 28 years, but I have been a cake decorator since the year 2000. So what year are we in now? Yeah, so about 15, 16 years. Yeah, and it's been my full-time job since 2005, so long time now. Next question. Oh, another question. When did you start baking? From Anna_MCG729. So I just answered that, Anna. There you go. Okay. Next, from Kylie Kober02. Has baking always been your passion? Love your videos. Yeah, it's been up there, but I also really love anything creative. I love creating. I used to love painting and, just like crafting things and building things. So cake fits in with my two loves, which are food and building things. So I think that's why I like it so much. And sometimes I paint them. Okay. Oh, and Isabel Say actually answered it for me. 15 years. Thank you, Isabel. Okay, this is from Angel Jazzy. It's funny when you joke around with Jocelyn. When can we see her? We're gonna have to ask Jocelyn because the pressure is on. I'm glad you guys enjoy the joking around because it's genuine and we are friends. So we started to just leave that in the video, which is sort of the behind the scenes talk. So I'm glad you guys enjoy it. But yeah, it's up to Jocelyn when she'll appear. Right now she's I think you're going to see her arm soon in a video. So sneak peek. Next, this is from Molly Skips. Would you ever collaborate with someone like Anne from How to Cook That if you got the chance? That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I would love to do a collaboration. I would love that. That would be amazing, especially somebody as amazing as she is. Yeah, but I guess it's more about timing and if they're interested, and then geography, because I'm in Toronto. So yeah, but I'm open to all collaborations. Next. Oh, I just actually, a question just popped up from Heather. Where do you live? And I just answered that. Toronto, Canada. Okay, so next, this is from Sarah_2918. Can you make buttercream without the candy thermometer? And if so, in my country, they don't sell candy thermometers. Oops. I also want to dare you to do a cake without a lazy Susan. Okay. You technically can make it without a candy thermometer, but if you've never done it before, I really don't suggest that. I've made buttercream thousands and thousands of times, and I always use my thermometer just because I don't want to go over and then have to throw out all of my ingredients and start again. So the thermometer is just an easy tool. And to be honest, you could probably find one online, and they're not very expensive. Like the thermometer that I have was about $8 Canadian. So they're not very expensive. I'm sure that you could find it online, and it will just make your life easier. And if you use the thermometer, you can get used to what the sugar is supposed to look like. But to try it the first time without a thermometer, I would not suggest that. That's just my opinion. Okay. Next. La la la. Okay. Oh, this is from Bake It Till You Make It. Ginger cookies, crispy or chewy? I've lost friends over this question. Wow, I'm going to have to go with crispy. I like crispy ginger cookies, especially like ginger snaps, especially like the thin Scandinavian type of ginger snap. I love that. I mean, I wouldn't turn away a chewy ginger cookie, but I prefer them crispy. Next. Okay, this is from, Kate Newman 4. Where do you get your inspiration and how much money do you spend on supplies for each cake? I get my inspiration everywhere, and now I get a lot of it from you guys, which is awesome. In fact, I get a lot of suggestions to make cakes into things that I've never even heard of, and then I have to look them up. And how much money do I spend on supplies for each cake? It depends on the cake. And at this point, I have a lot of cake decorating tools. I have like 80 cake pans, but in the beginning I didn't, and I'd have to buy the tools or the pans required to make the cake. So that's what's tricky about cake decorating, because it's definitely not a cheap hobby. But now that it has become my job for so long, I'm lucky enough to have a lot of that stuff. But for sure, on the type of cakes I make, I would say around, on average, like definitely $100. Definitely. I mean, butter is not cheap, cream is not cheap, chocolate is not cheap, so none of it is cheap. And the tools, if I need any tools, then I have to order them as well. Okay. So, next question. Okay, this is from Tashi32. How do you not have frosting melting or bulging out of the cake into the fondant? Yes. Okay, so it's very important, especially if the cake is shaped or heavy in any way. You never want to use a filling that is so light that it's sort of being pressed out of the cake, especially once you put the fondant on top, because fondant is heavy. So that is why I get a lot of comments about my novelty cakes, because you see that I always make them chocolate or vanilla, and there's a reason for that, because the cake needs to be sturdy, the filling needs to be sturdy, which is why I like Italian meringue buttercream or ganache, so that those things can support the weight of the fondant. So you're never going to see me try to make, a stack of book cakes that's strawberry shortcake inside, because it's just going to ooze out the side. So when you're building these kind of cakes, the filling and the cake itself is very important. The choice of those two things are very important, because fondant is heavy, and I've seen it. I've seen pictures of like wedding cakes where I can literally see the filling sort of oozing out and pushing the fondant away and making it bulge. So choose your cake and your filling wisely. Next, this is from Alexia's Chill. Is there a big difference in taste color when choosing different colorings like gel or liquid, etc.? Is there a way to avoid changing the taste of batter or icing without compromising color? P.S. I made your carrot cake recipe and it was yay! That's one of my favorite recipes. The truth is no. The thing about color is the darker the color, the more the flavor is affected. So if you're doing like red, black, dark purple, dark blue, that's where the flavor is really affected, because in order to get those colors really nice and dark and true and vibrant, you need a lot of food coloring. If you're just making yellow or peach or light blue, that really doesn't happen because you don't need as much food coloring. But when you need a strong color, you do need a lot of food coloring, and there's sort of nothing you can do about that. When I was making cakes for clients, I was always sure to let them know. So if somebody ordered a cake that looked like a camera, and a camera is black, I would always tell them, just know that the fondant is going to have a certain taste to it. It's also going to dye your tongue. I was especially tell them this if they were adults, or if it was an adult function, like a wedding. I've had brides that wanted black cakes as a wedding cake, and I would just be sure to let them know that A, they would be able to taste it, and B, it would dye their mouths on their wedding day. So I would try to encourage them in that case to choose like a black ribbon or something else black on the cake, so that that wouldn't happen, because it would also happen to their guests. But when it's a children's party, I find it's very different, because I'm a believer in whatever I'm making, I want it to be as true as possible. So if a camera is black and I'm making a camera, I'm making it black. I'm not going to make a gray camera and say, oh, it looks black, because then it will never look true. So there's always sort of a compromise, right? So it depends on what do you want to compromise. Do you want to compromise the flavor a little bit, or do you want to compromise the look of the cake? So that's really, really up to you. But that's just the truth. And the truth be told, you don't have to eat fondant. A lot, when I eat a slice of cake, I often don't even get to the fondant just because I think it's sweet and it's not really a big deal. Even with an iced cake, a lot of people you'll find don't eat the icing on the outside. So it's really just a personal choice. But if it's for a client, I would definitely let them know. Okay, next. Oh, this is from Situation G, and it was the same question, asking if I found food coloring brands that don't change the flavor of buttercream when dark colors are used. No, I haven't. I'm sorry. Okay. Situation G, once again, where do you buy your cake pans? I actually buy my cake pans from a Canadian company called Crown. I do have a parcel shop on my website, howtocake.com, where I list everything I use in each video for every cake that I make. We list a different brand of cake pans because the ones that I actually own are Canadian made, and I have yet to find a website that will ship them to all of you. So that's the answer. Okay, next. I gotta stop saying I say this to myself every time before I start Cake Talk, and I say it. Okay. Oh, Awesome Leopard also had a question about food coloring and flavor, which I answered. Thank you, Awesome Leopard. I love that your picture is an awesome leopard. That's very effective. Okay, this is from, oh, I hope I say this right, Meropamp M. How do you get your chocolate chip cookies so stunning? Thank you. I've made your recipes so many times that they never look as good as yours. I love you. I actually just released a Christmas Baking Hacks ebook where I go more into detail about my chocolate chip cookies. I also included a double chocolate chip cookie in that book, and I explain a little bit more in detail what I do with my chocolate chip cookies when I bake them, how you can make your life easier and make the dough in advance and then bake it over the Christmas holidays. So you should definitely check it out. A lot of helpful hints about how to bake them properly and how to make your life easier. But yeah, and here's another tip. Sometimes when you make cookies, when you bake them, right before you bake them, throw a few chocolate chips right onto the surface, and those ones stay on the top, and then your cookie looks extra chocolatey because those chocolate chips haven't been covered in cookie dough. Yeah. Okay, next. Okay, Carly Howard. Do you ever have to make two of the same cakes because you have to eat one on the show? Love you and can't wait for your next video. Absolutely not, Carly. I don't have the time to make two cakes. So every cake I'm making live. That's why it takes about 14 hours to shoot one How to Cake It video. Yeah, so I never make two. The other reason is when they're sculpted, they'll really never look identical. It would be one thing if I was just making like 2 8-inch round cakes and then icing the outside. But if I'm shaping, you know, Bob Minion, he'll never look identical just because I'm doing it by eye. So no. And the main reason is that I do not have the time. And I don't want to eat that much cake. I don't have that many friends to give it away to. So I just give away the one. Okay, next. I'm going to go up here instead. Hi, Yolanda. This is from Lisa Carlton. Hi, Yolanda. Which cake from your YouTube videos took you the longest? And which are you most proud of? Okay. P.S. You should call your syrup bottle Walter. I've been getting a lot of requests for what to call the syrup bottle. I am going to choose a name, but Walter is taken because Walter Mellon, there's only one Walter Mellon. I can't take his name. He's famous. Okay, so the cake that took me the longest is actually one I just filmed last week and will be airing next week. And I'll give you a clue. It's a little guy from the new Star Wars movie. He took forever. He took 2 days. So we filmed for 2 days. He took so long, but I have to say I'm really proud of him. And I'm also most proud of the turkey cake because I was really scared and anxious about attempting that. And I was so happy with the way it looked. Anytime I can't have like a template, that kind of freaks me out and I can't use a ruler. So it was just freehand carving and I was so happy with the turkey. So I'd say the turkey and the little guy that's going to come out next week, there may be 2 B's and an 8 in his name, possibly. Okay, next. Okay, here's another question. I get this a lot. This is from Alvin Chan. Why do you use simple syrup? Wouldn't it make the cake too watery? No, because it's syrup, not water. So by boiling 1 part sugar and 1 part water, it actually thickens while boiling. And also you're just sprinkling it. So you're showering a layer of syrup and then letting the cake absorb that. And the cakes that I make, especially for sculpting, are on the denser side. It's not like a light, airy sponge cake with a lot of holes in it, where that cake would be just like a sponge and absorb a lot more syrup. It's not like that. So no, it just locks in the moisture because when you're decorating a cake that takes a long time, you've got to keep that in mind. So this will keep it nice and moist while you're decorating. And by the time people eat it, it's still wonderfully delicious. Okay. Okay, so here's another. Oh, this is from 097th. When you freeze a cake, wouldn't it change the texture of the cake? I don't really know the answer to that. I don't freeze cakes that are already decorated, mainly because I don't even have a freezer in my kitchen. So I have frozen, sometimes I have extra batter when I'm baking a big cake and then I'll bake a little one. Usually I give it to my mom or my sister, but sometimes I freeze those. And then when I have friends over, I just pull them out and throw a little buttercream on or ganache or something like that. And I find when I freeze those alone, it doesn't change the texture. I also don't freeze them for that long. But I have had brides who have frozen the top tier of their wedding cake, wrapped it in plastic, and eaten it 1 year later on their anniversary and called me or written to me and told me that it's wonderful. So I'm going to say probably not, because I've had so many brides tell me that the cake was wonderful, as long as you protect it. And here's another truth. When there's fondant on it, the fondant protects the cake even more. You just want to make sure to thaw it completely to room temperature before you eat it. Okay, next. Okay, this is from Rebecca Gorgeous. When you're making food paint out of food coloring and alcohol, why aren't you using water? Aren't they the same? No, they are not the same, because alcohol evaporates at a much quicker rate than water does. And the reason you want this when you're painting on fondant is if you're applying water to fondant, then that water is sort of eating away at all the sugar on the fondant, and that cake will stay wet longer. So it's not that you can't use it, it just depends on what you're doing. Alcohol is my first choice. You can use lemon extract, but lemon extract is made from alcohol. It's the first ingredient. So you don't have to worry about your cake being alcoholic, because the alcohol literally evaporates in the air. But the reason you use alcohol is so that the paint will dry when you paint the cake, and that way you can go back and do another layer. Like with Walter, I painted him 4 times. With the turkey, I painted him twice. So you need that paint to dry in between. And it even evaporates when the cake is in the fridge. With water, it will stay wet and sort of eat away at the fondant for much longer. And that's why cake decorators, you will find, use alcohol or lemon extract. Okay, next. This is from Sammy Abdich. I hope I said your last name right. Favorite type of cake and why? I love chocolate banana. That's my favorite, because I really love chocolate, but I love banana cake, and so I get both, and I think it's perfect. And I put vanilla buttercream in between. I did that in my t-shirt cake. I've got to do that again, because that is my favorite cake. And when I was making cakes for clients, it was actually like my #1 ordered cake. So I've got to make that again. Okay. Next. Wow. Hi, Yolanda. I am Marcus, and I am from Hong Kong. I want to ask you, how big the biggest cake you ever made was. The biggest cake I ever made was on Sugar Stars, which was a Canadian show that I was on, and I made book cakes, kind of like my back to school cake, except there was 12 books, and they were all bigger than the ones I made on how to cake it. And I actually had to, I think I stacked only 5 of them because that was all I could carry, and then I had to put the other 7 on at the venue. That was the biggest cake I've ever made, and every single cake was a real book, so I had to copy, the font and what the cover looked like, and they were all painted different ways. That was one of the biggest, hardest cakes I've ever made, but one of the ones that I'm most proud of, and I got to meet a lot of the authors of the books that I made, which was really, really cool. Okay, so this is from Sinead_AH_24. How much time do you spend in your kitchen a day? Wow. When I'm filming, long time. Definitely 14 hours. I think our record day was like 10 hours. I think that was our record day. And it was for one of the much earlier videos, like the Rice Krispie squares or something like that. Something a lot simpler. But I also spend days in my kitchen before we film prepping, like making my buttercream and baking all the cakes and coloring all the fondant I'm going to use. So on average, I spend, 8 to 14 hours a day in my kitchen. I try to take weekends off because I have a son and I have a family, and that's the best thing about YouTube. It's allowed me that when I was making cakes for clients. If you're a cake decorator, you don't have a weekend because your weekend is crunch time. Your weekend is when you're, tiering the wedding cakes or tiering the bar mitzvah cakes and driving around the city delivering those cakes, because people always get married on the weekend and have birthday parties on the weekend. So you, as a cake decorator, don't really have a weekend. And my weekend was always Monday, and I would use that day usually to clean my kitchen from top to bottom. Okay. This is from Tanir_Nakvi. I hope I said that right. How long does it take to make a cake? Long time. So in YouTube land, it takes me 14 hours because I'm doing it all in front of you. But you don't see like the baking part and the preparation part. So on average, they take 2 to 3 days. The book cake I was discussing just a moment ago took me 5 days. That's how hard it was. Thank goodness for simple syrup. Okay. Next question. What is modeling chocolate made of? This is from V. Huang. Modeling chocolate is just chocolate and corn syrup. And they are melted together in a double boiler. And then you let it set overnight outside or for a lot of hours. And then it just sort of hardens and becomes firm like fondant. It's weird. It's a little more firm than fondant, but when you knead it, it becomes softer because it's chocolate and there's the warmth of your hands. I find it very helpful. At times I'm going to use some modeling chocolate again when I make the Star Wars character next week. And of course, anytime I make anything that looks like cheese, I go for modeling chocolate. And when I did the turkey bones, I did use modeling chocolate because the base color is the color of white chocolate. So I felt that was more realistic than white fondant is. You can also make dark modeling chocolate. It doesn't have to be white chocolate. I haven't used that yet. I should. Maybe I'll bust that out for Valentine's Day or something like that. Yep. Okay. Next. Oh my gosh, there's so many questions and a lot of them are the same. Okay, this is from Tara Carter. What kind of alcohol do you use? I use white rum. I use white rum because my mother's from Grenada and we have a lot of rum, and so that's my choice. But you can use vodka, you can use tequila. Usually I use a clear alcohol for sure. Yeah, that's my choice. Okay, next. This is from Carlos Bowser. Do you ever take orders for birthdays/events or just cakes for your channel? By the way, your cakes look bomb. Thank you. I no longer make cakes for birthdays and events just because YouTube has taken off. Thanks to all of you. Thank you so much. Much faster than any of us could ever imagined. And at the same time, when I began YouTube almost a year ago, my son was only 1. And so I am a full-time mom as well. I'm lucky enough to have the help of my mother and my husband, of course, but I simply can't handle it. I also get a lot of requests to do more than one YouTube video, and I can't do it because I would never see my son because what I do takes so long, and I really want to be true to my art form. So I don't want to make, a bunch of easier cakes just so I could put out more videos. I love the challenge, and I also really try to stay on the line. I get a lot of requests for more novelty cakes, and I get a lot of requests for more cakes that you at home can actually make without having a ton of cake decorating tools. So we try to live up to both of those things with our what we call our cake porn videos, which are me making the great novelty cakes that people love to watch transform, and then the how-to videos where there's no interview and I'm talking directly to you and telling you how to do it, because I think those cakes are more approachable and you don't need the plethora of tools that I have in order to make them. Okay, next. Okay, this is from, again, V. Huang. What is the best tip you could give to baking beginners? My best tip, in all honesty, is have patience and practice. A lot of the questions I get are people who feel very discouraged because they've tried something once and it didn't work out the way that they thought it would. In my opinion, nothing in life is really like that. The best way to learn is to do, especially in baking and cake decorating, because try it. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? What is the absolute worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to bake a cake and you're not going to like it. It's really not that terrible. You can try it again. So have patience and practice and have confidence in yourself, because that's what makes you try new things. All of the cakes, other than the book cake, all of the cakes I've made on YouTube, I've never made before. And I'm completely scared. Jocelyn likes to say I procrastinate before we begin because I truly am scared and nervous. And sometimes I'm halfway through a cake and I think, this is not, I wish we could have included how many times I asked Chet if it looked like a turkey, because it was probably 50. And I think we should have left that in the video. But yeah, that's my advice. So good luck. Next. Okay. Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is from Septic Gosling 7. You've got a son, right? Right. How do you manage to take care of him and spend 15 hours making a video? Yes, it's very hard. As I was just saying, that's why I only do one video a week. Also, there's a lot that goes with YouTube. I am on other social media. I'm on Instagram, Snapchat sometimes. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, so there's a lot of, upkeep and maintenance and responding to people. In fact, it's quite overwhelming. So this has become a full-time job, which is why I can no longer take orders for cakes and for my clients. And I have to balance being a mom and YouTube and all that comes with it. So I'm very lucky to have my mom help me, which is a really, really big help. But yeah, it's really hard, but it's worth it because I love what I do. I would find it really hard to be away from him for that long without loving it. So I kind of get to have, a bit of the best of both worlds, and I still get to enjoy my passion, which I've enjoyed for so long. Okay, next, I'm trying to scroll on my iPad. That is excellent. Okay. Next. Ooh, this is a great question this is going to be my last question, actually, because I have to get filming. I'm filming something really exciting for the new year. Yay! Okay. If you never started with baking, then what would you have done? You're going to laugh at this. One of two things. I love wrapping gifts. I love it, love it, love it. I'm so excited for Christmas because I get to wrap a ton of gifts. So I always say I would have been a professional gift wrapper. There is such a thing. I heard that Oprah has one. So that's what I would have done. And the other thing I would have done, I am an organizational freak. I'm a neat freak. I can't stand clutter. So I think I would have been a professional organizer, like go to people's houses and help them organize. I can't even watch hoarders. You don't want to see me watch hoarders because I get so upset. I can't handle it. And I just want to help those people so bad. So I think I would have done something like that because it's just sort of in my nature. Yeah, so there you go. Okay, everyone, that's it. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question. I know I answered a lot of your questions, but didn't mention your name because I get the same question a lot over and over. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time, which will be when? December 17th. Oh my God, we'll be really close to Christmas. Okay, see you later, guys. Bye.